Hey folks, decided to make a quick video on my work that I'm doing here on my Epiphone Gibson guitar, just because it's a fun hobby of mine, and I was looking to change the strings on it, and then as I looked at it, decided, wow, it really needs a lot of work. Which, by the way, I've kind of picked it up through watching other videos. For example, Sam Deeks, if you're interested in this kind of detailed work on your guitars, look him up on YouTube. Thank you, Sam, but shout out to you. He's got some very great videos, and he just kind of talks through the process of as how he reloves guitars, as he says. And so I learned a lot of my techniques through him, and a lot of the tools that I use through him, and other research that I've done, watching other videos, reading up on blogs, things like that. And so I'm going to talk a little bit about those, some of the types of techniques and tools that I use that Sam uses as well. I'm not going to make a full video like he makes, which are great, by the way. If you've got the time to watch them, they're sometimes an hour or two, but he goes through every single detail on how to restore a guitar, and they're great. But just wanted to kind of give you some details on this guitar, because I wanted to use this. I wanted to change the strings anyway, like I had mentioned, because I want to use this on my next album. So when you hear my next album, which should be coming out sometime next year, I really wanted it to sound good. And I'm hearing a lot of just some deadness in it, and the frets really need a lot of work. There's a lot of like some fretting out and things like that that I'm hearing on my recordings, and I really want it to sound good, and I want to use this guitar for the next recording. So it's a 1992 Epiphone, and it came to me through my wife. Actually, we were part of a praise and worship team back in 1997, between 97 and 2000, when I was in the Air Force in Italy, and the guy gave it to us. Because I think my wife wanted to learn more about guitars and learn how to play, but then really it just kind of came to me, and I started using it with just the requirement of, if you find the opportunity that you'll be able to bless somebody else with it, then pass it on, as he had passed it on to us when someone gave it to him. So it's really got a kind of a neat backstory to it, and so I'm still kind of working on it, and I really want to make it nice and play it, because I haven't played it a lot either, because it needs new strings and a lot of work, and I just didn't want to put the time into it. But I'm going to go through some of that work, and I'm going to start with taking the strings off and taping down the frets so I can kind of sand them and smooth them out a little bit, even them out. And I'll just kind of stop the video each time, so you don't have to see all the big work that takes a lot of time and effort. But I'll just kind of talk through it as I make the little changes. So thanks for watching. I hope to bring you some information, if that's why you're watching, or just seeing a cool guitar. I love the process of saying, man, I made this guitar a little bit better, and that's what I get out of it, knowing that I can do that on my own guitars now. I can actually do the work. So yeah, thanks for watching, and we'll get on to the work. So I decided to turn the recording back on and just kind of explain a little of the details that I'm doing. As I'm doing it, I'm realizing there is quite a bit of detail that I potentially could have left out if I just kind of did the process and then came back and was like, ta-da, here's the guitar, which is kind of what I was thinking about doing. But now I understand why Sam and some of those other guys just kind of leave the recording running and then just kind of do the work so you can see it. This may be a little harder than I thought, but definitely, if you have any thoughts or comments or something you'd like to see next time, just go ahead and leave them below. This is my first time I'm doing a restoration guitar kind of video, so be nice. But anyway, so I kind of taped it down, and what I'm using is some of this special kind of tape. It's called Transfer Right Ultra. I got it off of StewMac.com. They're a luthier company, and that's where I got a lot of my tools. It can get kind of expensive as you continue to buy tools and things, but that's how I got started, and they got a lot of how-to videos as well. And so I'm using this type of tape. It's not very sticky, so you can put it. I got the big. I think this is like 3 inches type and stuff too, to kind of help protect the body as well. And then you could take it off and it's not hurting your paint job and things like that. And that's its purpose. So it's not very sticky, but then it protects your frets and your stuff. So anyway, and I'm using one of their files. It's a double-edged fret file. And so I kind of wanted to just show this little process because there is a specific process, and I'm no expert by any means, so don't just take my word for it, but do your research and kind of watch the experts on how they do things. But I kind of take a side of it and I just kind of go one way, kind of like you're sharpening a knife, with a sharpening stone. I'm just going like this because these frets, they have a lot of grooves in them from years of the strings just pushing down on them. And it's a soft metal, so it's going to leave grooves over time with your strings. It's another reason or another way you can see that you need to have some fret work done. And if you feel your strings and you feel like some notches in your strings as you run your finger up and down them, you're going to know that you need to change your strings and stuff because it's affecting your sound. So I'm just doing this enough so I can start seeing those grooves go away. So we're going to do some other fine sanding and stuff later. So I just want to make sure that those grooves are going away, and I just wanted to show this little process of kind of doing this on my frets. And I'm not doing it to all frets because not all of them have that, but it also helps kind of round the frets back because as you sand, they flatten out, and that affects your sound as well. So you need to round them back up after you sand them. So you don't want to do it too much because then you're just going to need new frets, and that's a whole nother job to begin with. So you just want to do it until you start seeing some of those kind of go away. So anyway, I thought that was kind of a big piece of detail that I didn't want to leave out, which is the whole reason why I decided I was going to change my strings, and then I decided I needed to do this because I saw the grooves in my frets, and I was like, I can't just change the strings. Those are going to start cutting my strings, and I need to work on the frets. So that's why I'm here. So anyway, I hope that helps. And then on to the next portion. I'm going to fine sand it, and then hopefully get to the strings soon. So. Okay, so hopefully this is all making sense, once I put all this together. So I finished sanding my frets. The other thing I forgot to mention in doing my frets, and this kind of gets into the fine details as well, is using a Sharpie. Sharpie method, I guess, is what you maybe want to call it. Some other folks use this as well. Is you color your frets. You can use any kind of marker, but color the top of your frets. Obviously do it after you've taped it all up so you're not marking on your fretboard itself. So that way as you sand, especially if your frets are uneven, mine are pretty good, so I just kind of did an overall sanding. And basically what that does is it helps you know how much you're sanding, especially if your frets are uneven. You can see as you start your sanding what frets are being touched and which ones aren't. So you can tell if you've got lower frets, higher frets, that's going to change the dynamic of your sound too. So that would be called leveling your frets if you're trying to level them. As you get into reshaping your frets, I recolor the frets, and I recommend using like red or a light color that you can see, not black or dark blue, because it gets hard to see after a while. But as you get into the fine reshaping of your frets, it helps to see how you make your peak again, because then the line becomes really fine on top, it becomes really thin, and you can tell how even you're making your fret as you're reshaping it. So the next thing I'm going to start doing now, I've gotten all that done, is I'm going to use these micro mesh, the ultimate in fine finishing abrasives, the more shine in less time. Also got these on StewMac, and I got different grit. I basically bought a pack that's got different grit types. So I've got an 1800 grit all the way to a 4000 grit, and I use them together. Use them starting with the lowest to the highest. And if you buy this little package like this, you come with this little spongy, but you can use any kind of spongy. And I've tried to shape it into like a point, like I've seen other people use as well, and just wrap it around like that. And then what we're going to do is you can actually kind of go back and forth. You can kind of concentrate on some of the higher frets if that's where you did the most work on, and just kind of go over the bottom. But this also, not only reshaping your little foamy, kind of goes over the frets and helps the reshaping process as well. but it just helps give an overall shine, and it starts getting them really like factory smooth. So do this for like 30 seconds to a minute with each of these things, all the way up to 4,000. You can get as detailed as you want with this, but usually these are the only ones I use. What there's like, I got like 4 of them here. I'll just tell you what they are: 1,800 to 2,400 to 3,600 to 4,000, and that does a really good job for me. So that's what I've known, that's what I've used, and so I just kind of flimsy with the wrist back and forth. And I do that, and I'll go through all the rest of these too. Some of the other tools that I'm using is a guitar scale, also from StewMac. It helps know if my frets are uneven or if they're pretty good. So that's another cool tool you can have. Again, so this starts adding up as you like, ooh, I might need that tool. Just know that, you know, you could be spending some money. But that's, I wanted to really get into this hobby and really know how I can work on my own guitar. So that's why I took the effort, put the money in, and did a lot of research, watched a lot of videos. I think that was all I was going to show you at this point. I'm going to go ahead and go through all of these different sanding meshes. These can also get wet too, so you can wet these and kind of do the process. I found that it doesn't really, to me, matter as much. But the other thing is you're going to get shavings, metal shavings, just like anything else, all over the place. So you're going to need to do some cleanup, but I don't really worry about that until at the end anyway. So I'm going to go through all this, and then we'll come back to the next process. All right. Hopefully we'll get to the strings soon. We're going to kind of clean it up after we're done here. Take all the tape off, clean it up, then we'll put the strings on. So until then. Okay. So I've cleaned it up, dusted it a little bit. I didn't get crazy with any solutions or anything on the body. I just kind of brushed it off, just got the dust off of it, because I'm really just excited about getting it strung up. And here's why: because I just ordered some new strings. I'm going to give another shout out to another company. I just giving shout outs everywhere in this video. String Joy guitar strings. I encourage you to look them up, read their story, read who they're, what they're about, and just the care of that they put into strings. The reason I ordered these, I liked them on my acoustic, or I liked them on my electric, but these, something that String Joy, I guess, used to do, and then they took them off the market because they wanted to make them better. They brought them back, the extra light, the bright acoustic version of their acoustic strings. And so I'm really just excited about putting those on this guitar, because I wanted to see if I can make this old Epiphone just sound awesome, and getting some really good strings and give it a good bright acoustic sound. The other thing I wanted to point out is if you have issues with your pegs popping out as you restring guitars, hopefully you watch this video and you're not playing along with the video as you're doing the work, like I like to do sometimes, and I'm like, oh, well, I wish I would have known that in the beginning. So hopefully you're not like that, but as you're taking your guitar strings out and you're taking your pegs out, I recommend putting them out in order of the way you took them out, so you know what hole they go back in. Sometimes I have issues with the pegs popping back out, and that's because sometimes I just forget to remember what hole they go into, and so I try to put them in a different hole and they don't fit quite right. And what happens is then my strings start popping out. So this time I've put them all back in order from high E to low E, so I know where they're going to go back as I restring it. So let's get to that point. I'm going to restring the guitar, and hopefully I've got a great sounding acoustic for you coming up. So let's get to that.